welcome to Consumer Alert TV this morning, and we're here on Perspective once again this beautiful Friday morning. Thank God it's Friday, and this Perspective where we go beyond the headlines to unpack the stories shaping Nigeria's future. Today we turn our focus to a number that is as staggering as it is significant: 153.29 trillion naira. That is Nigeria's total public debt as of September 2025. According to the Debt Management Office, DMO, but beyond the figure lies a deeper story about policy choices, economic pressures, and what it all means to everyday Nigerians. Over the past few years, Nigeria's public debt has climbed steadily, driven by domestic borrowing and external loans, while the government says this is needed to fund infrastructure and stabilize the economy. Concerns remain about sustainability as debt servicing continue to take a large share of revenue. The question remains, how much debt is too much? Good morning once again. I am Ejike-Okpa.
Yeah, good morning. I am Ejike-Okpa. Looking at the topic today, for citizens, the impact is real. Rising debt can affect inflation, taxation, and spending on key services like healthcare, education, and power. As more funds go into servicing loans, less may be available for development, creating a delicate balance between immediate obligations and long-term growth.
All right, thank you so much, Ejike. And on Perspective, we ask the tough questions. Is Nigeria borrowing wisely or heading toward a fiscal tipping point? What strategies can ensure that debt delivers real value? And most importantly, how does this growing body shape the future of the next generation? Before we bring in our guest this morning, let's go on a short break and we'll be right back.
Hello consumers, you have the right to be heard, absolutely. So join us on the conversation, share your brand experience, where you tell us all your experiences about brand on the outer world via our YouTube channel every Wednesday from the hour of 4:20 to 5:20. You can watch us via our YouTube channel, Consumer Alert TV, and subscription is free. Follow us on all our social media platforms, Consumer Alert TV. Share your brand experience. It's about storytelling. It's about experiences.
Hello consumers, you're welcome to another exciting episode of Consumer Voice on Consumer Alert TV. I am Matilda Omenai. As you already know, Consumer Voice is a show where we'll be visiting different places in Lagos to check out people's preferences, hear what the consumers have to say about different leading brands that they make use of.
Hello, it's your boy here, Ejike-Okpa, and you know what? They call me the AWUF General Overseer. Every day is a blessing and it is meant to be enjoyed maximally with AWUF packages that put a smile on our faces. And guess what? That is why this show AWUF is for you. You can get to know about trendy market slashes, promos, offers, and juicy deals that put a smile on your faces, and you can always enjoy them maximally. And you know one thing that is so interesting about this show? It is a blend of English and Pidgin. As I dey run you English, now I go dey marry am with Pidgin, make am spicy. So catch me every time on the show to enjoy more about trendy AWUF packages. Peace.
Public service announcement. Hello consumers, I am Ejike-Okpa and welcome to the Scam Alert segment on Consumer Alert TV. Scam Alert educates viewers about various scams affecting consumers. We learn tips on how to identify fraudulent activities and provide advice on protecting our personal information. We aim to raise awareness and empower viewers to avoid falling victim to scams. We cover various topics such as phishing, identity theft, fraudulent investment schemes, and many more. You want to catch up on how these scammers invade our lives? Join us every Tuesday by 12:30 p.m. for Scam Alert on our YouTube channel at Consumer Alert TV. Subscription is absolutely free. And in case you're not following us across all our social media,
All right, welcome back to Perspective this morning on Consumer Hala TV. And before our guest comes in, let's talk about this particular debt that is going on in the country. What do you think about it in the first place?
Well, as at now, we know that the debt Nigeria has accumulated over time is something that it's always staggering, and sometimes you get to wonder what eventually do we use all this money that we get to loan, or that we get to borrow from other countries. What exactly do we use them for? Is it in terms of our infrastructure? Is it in terms of economic growth? Or what exactly? Because if you look at different sectors across the country, the health sector, education, power, everything, nothing is actually stable. Everything staggers, and at the end of the day, we keep borrowing more. And every government, if you look at the past administrations, every government ends up borrowing, and the question still remains the same: how much is too much for us to borrow? So I don't think there's any evidence enough to say that, okay, this is what we've used
this money for.
So it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot.
I think we really need to understand the fact that it's not like we are bashing the government. It's more of calling them to accountability and tell Nigerians, because we are Nigerian and we live in this country, we are entitled to transparency and honesty from our government. It is high time government comes out to tell us, okay, you're not saying this money, but we are using it for this, we are using it for that. Just let us know what exactly you are using this money for. But as Nigerians, I think most of us feel like we are indebted to, especially China, when it comes to this amount of borrowing. Recently, government took a loan from the European people, which is around 700 and something $million.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we took that loan recently, and that is just like a bilateral loan. It's a bilateral loan that is actually accumulates to more interest. Apart from that, it is more of a federal government borrowing. The other levels of government, the borrowing is here and there, but federal government borrows a huge chunk of money from external people. But what exactly are we using this money for? Is it for healthcare? Is it for subsidy? Is it for what exactly is this money going into? We need to actually know about these things, and we deserve these answers, because if we don't get it, Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians are suffering. People are living below poverty line. We have insecurities here and there. People are in war zones, banditry and every other thing. Is this money being used for these people, or is it just for political purpose alone? So why exactly are we still borrowing? And the government keeps excusing the borrowing, saying it is necessary for growth. Where is that particular growth? What is the infrastructure? What exactly are you giving to the people of Nigerians? They are saying that, okay, this loan is something that it's for growth. We are not seeing that growth. In fact, we are seeing everything going downward every time, and the government is still the same every time. So we need to really, really know what exactly is going on in our society.
Yeah, absolutely true. Every government official should be accountable for how we spend, especially when it's not internal revenue.
Yes.
It's something that we've borrowed. So definitely we should know that this is like 153 trillion naira. That is a whole lot
of money.
So every time it's always like trillions of naira, and you look at it, the Minister of Electricity was out there and was saying, okay, the power sector,
like 100 million.
You understand?
Naira.
So if at the end of the day we borrow for that, then we can't see the stable outcome of whatever we use that money for. Then where did the money go? Like I said earlier, how much is too much? I don't think Nigerians would have issues with governments borrowing if we see tangible results at the end of the day. But if at the end of the day nothing is shown, then there's something that we really need to put in place about structure. Because if you look at it, the total public debt rose from 152.40 trillion naira of June 30, 2025 to 153 1.29 trillion naira. And that is a whole lot. It's not if it's going down. And that is at the end of September. You understand? So that is an increase. So every time we have an increase in the borrowing, but we do not have an increase in the output. So we just have to strike a balance. If you look at it, almost every country borrows.
No, I mean it's just like a business owner. You need capital. You need loan sharks to borrow to be able to continue with your business. It now depends on how well your business is turning out. That is how you're going to have your own profit. But Nigeria right now is just like we are borrowing and then money is just going to where we don't know. Where is this money going to? They need to tell us. It is our right to know.
Especially when it comes to the structural fiscal deficits, and you look at the domestic and global economic shock, you realize that we have a lot of deficits that we cannot really track. And whenever we come to fiscal policy, you need to know that you need experts, you need analysts. And I think one of the things government needs to understand is that you need experts for some of these decisions you make. You understand? You cannot just wake up one morning and feel like, okay, this is what you want to do. Okay, look at the education sector, look at healthcare, look at transportation. There is rise in inflation every single day. And that is affecting the common man on the streets. You understand? Businesses are suffering. You know, some cannot even afford to pay school fees. So children are sent out of schools. That is to show that the educational sector has not improved. And when people take ill, when they fall sick, where did they get adequate healthcare
system? So
it's a whole lot we need to unpack into all of these things. Everything's all about structure and structure and structure. Structure remains the only backbone that we need, whether in government administration or everything. It's all about structure.
All right, that is a very, very good one right there, Rufe. Thank you so much for speaking on that particular aspect, because health is wealth and we need to understand that without health, without proper healthcare facility, we as people are going to suffer the most. Let's go on a short break, and when we get back, we'll continue right into this conversation by hoping that our guest for the day is here to actually give us more insights on this particular conversation.
Hi people, my name is Mo Fakorede and I am a filmmaker and a film director, and you're watching Consumer Ala TV. Consumer Ala TV is everything consumer advocacy, consumer rights, everything that has to do with consumers. On this TV, you'll watch, you'll learn, you'll be educated, and you'll be entertained. Keep watching Consumer Ala TV.
My name is Olubukola Ozone, a photographer and a social media enthusiast. You're watching Consumer Hala TV. It's a consumer advocacy TV. If you have a problem, any consumer related problem, just holla at them, just like their name implies, and they're going to get it sorted for you. Keep watching, stay tuned. Thank you very much.
Hi guys, my name is Joba Jalabi. I'm a marketing communications professional. I currently lead marketing at Flash Change, a fintech startup. Keep watching Consumer Hala TV, a consumer advocacy channel.
Hello, my name is Sharon Rotimi. I'm an actor and I am on Consumer Hala TV. Now, Consumer Hala TV is a consumer advocacy channel. So if you have any issues, consumer-related issues with brands and services, you can reach out to them and they'll be sure to handle it or to cater to you. Thank you so much.
Hi guys, my name is Ejike-Okpa Adeton. I'm a film poster designer and illustrator. This is Consumer Hala TV. It's a consumer advocacy channel. We show content on consumers-based news, entertainment, and all of that. So I urge you guys to stay tuned to Consumer Hala TV.
My name is Ejike-Okpa Alao, a sales consultant for Star Times Nigeria. This is a Consumer Hala TV, where they discuss anything consumer needs, and you get knowledge about anything about consumer. So keep watching the
Hi, my name is Adebola Ogushino. I'm a filmmaker and you're watching Consumer Hala TV. Any consumer related issues, they've got you.
Hi, my name is Stephen Olorunshisi. I'm a strategy and sales professional currently working with Obey, and you're watching Consumer Hala TV. I mean, this is one of the channels that you don't want to but stay on. Consumer advocacy, brand promotion, everything consumer, what you need to learn for your business to grow. This is a channel where you learn, where you experience entertainment too, yeah. But it's good for businesses, for brands, and fun.
All right, as we talk about the debt borrowing in Nigeria, we have to bring in an expert to help us further buttress this particular conversation and give us his insights. And joining us to discuss this is Global Affairs Analyst, Ejike-Okpa. Mr. Ejike-Okpa, good morning. How are you doing this morning?
Thank you. Sorry for joining me late. I'm fine.
Thank you so much for joining the conversation. Let's quickly go into the questions for today because this is something that is very, very crucial. It's a conversation that Nigerians will really, really want to know about. How do you feel, first of all, about Nigeria's public debt reaching 153.29 trillion naira?
Well, every country has a debt. The most important thing is, a debt's supposed to give you more capacity to deliver, public goods. So the Nigerian debt is growing. The question is, are those helping Nigerians to live a better life? Do you have roads? Do you have water? Do you have lights? Do you have public safety? Are your schools being well funded? It's not when the country is borrowing and then public good is going down, but individuals are doing well. So that's where it is. Like in America, we have debt. Debt is actually good because it makes you wanna wake up and go to sleep when you wake up and be strategic as how you're gonna pay back. But it's not a case of when you borrow you turn around and things are not working. So the question has to be asked by Nigerians. Yes, we are borrowing, but what good is it delivering for us? And most Nigerians, 99% of Nigerians will answer that question. They don't see the benefit. What you see is ministers and governors and the president and those around him or them, doing well while the overall Nigerian is suffering. You are in Lagos. If you look around where you are in Lagos, don't you have open gutter? Do you even have light? Electricity in Nigeria is very, very undependable. It's unreliable. So these are what's supposed to be delivered to Nigerians and not, just showing that you are borrowing money, but it's not benefiting the people.
That was insightful. You made mention of the fact that Nigerian government keeps excusing borrowing for so many factors and the growth is not visible. Nigerians need to ask questions. So to be fair, Mr. Ejike, is Nigeria's current debt driven by structural fiscal deficits or domestic and global economic shocks?
I mean, all of those, but the point is when you go to borrow, I'll give you a personal example. When I bought my house, it was debt. But but I have paid off my mortgage note, and then I could see the wealth that I have created because I paid off my debt. But if you think that I borrowed that money, but I haven't seen the wealth creation and how the value is not there, then the question could be: Did I make any mistake, or the lender? Did the lender give me conditions that was choking me? I think what has happened with the case of Nigeria is even the Nigerian National Assembly, nobody knows what this money is being borrowed for. You hear the president is going out there to go borrow money on behalf of Nigeria. No. Nigerian debt should be held by Nigerians. A majority of it should be by Nigerians, not foreign lenders. And these foreign lenders, nobody knows who they are. So if the president says, "Oh, I'm going to go borrow money," who are you borrowing it from, and what is it for? You know, there are two ways to look at debt. You know, you can look at debt as a general obligation, or you look at debt as a revenue obligation. With this is a revenue obligation. That means you are borrowing it for something, for projects that are going to deliver revenue, and then paying them back wouldn't be a problem. The general obligation will be in building roads and providing facilities that only the government have the advantage to do, and that's why they are called general obligation. So the Nigerian government, they have to separate and have to disclose or discuss what are we borrowing for. You know, again, you know, I'll give a specific example. You know, you are in Lagos. Lagos has no water system. Lagos has no sewer system. Lagos, you know, most people still draw water from a well or have a tank deliver it. And then you see the Lagos government say, "Oh, we're borrowing money to go build you rail." As much as that is good, that's not what the basic Nigerian wants. The basic Nigerian wants to be able to go home and turn on the tap and the water flows, and turn on the light and the light is dependable so they can sleep comfortably. You know, and in this case, you know, you ask the question, who is anybody in Nigeria who doesn't have a generator? Or who is anybody in Nigeria who doesn't have their own water borehole? Yes, but you can build roads. You can build a compound and you get yourself a comfort. But how about road? When you go from Sulleriti to the airport, do you have your own private road? No, you don't. You still have to get on public road, and those public roads, are they well built? Are they giving the Nigerian transportation and the mobility that is needed for them to go from point A to B? You go to elementary schools. Those are general obligations. Forget, you know, there are private schools. Not everybody's going to go to private school. But if you go to elementary schools where you have a lot of Nigerian kids, do they even have facility, you know, when they want to eat it themselves? Oftentimes they do it on the corner of their school. Okay, I think recently there was a story that Lagos State, built public toilets. You don't have to build public toilet. You know, that is what people from the dark ages, do and beat their chest about. Today, those facilities should be in-house, and when you want to eat yourself, you don't have to go to a public toilet. You could go to a private facility. For instance, I live in Dallas. If I'm out there and I have a need to use a public, eat myself, I can walk into a restaurant and say, "Where's the bathroom?" And they'll point it to me. I don't have to spend my money there. I just go in and do it, wash my hand, and walk away. Nobody's going to question me. Do you have that in Nigeria? Heck no. That's why you see people standing on the side of the road and pee, or even doing number two. And that adds to the health condition in Nigeria. That's why Lagos is the biggest slum in the world, and it's a smelly place, because you don't have public facilities that will enable quality of life. And then when you leave Lagos and go to some other, if you go to Ekiti State or Abia State or Adamawa, what do you see? You see the level of poverty and the absence of facilities that make life worth living. It is not the measure of a country. Is not those who are driving around in expensive cars or so-called mansion. I always have a kick when Nigerians say they have a mansion. Say you have a mansion on a septic tank and a mansion on a generator, and then you wall your compound. Most Nigerians that feel that they are wealthy live in what I call mini prisons. So let's get back to the subject. The subject of debt. Debt actually supposed to make you wealthy if you are borrowing right and if the terms and conditions are right. But so far Nigeria is not a wealthy nation. Nigeria is actually a very poor nation. Because when you look at the per capita of Nigerians compared to the GDP, Nigeria is the poorest country, in all of oil-producing countries in the world because of the size of the population and the revenue they generate from oil. But so when you see very few, whatever that is, they are dancing and showing you off, they're actually making you very, very angry because, you know it. Like I said, when you get on the road, you don't get on a private road. You may have a short private road that gets into your compound. How about when you go in 10 miles, 20 miles? When you're going from Lagos to Enugu, is it not the same road that the same rich man is going with as same as the poor man? So what is the debt? How has the debt helped Nigerians? You know, I mean, in America, we have deficit, which is different. Deficit is a physical period for that particular year. We are short base revenue and expenses. But when you look at Nigeria, Nigeria is debt because Nigerian deficit keep growing, and that makes the debt get bigger, and then you don't even see the benefit. You see, so it's a catch-22. You're borrowing, but you're not growing.
All right. Talking about borrowing and also the fact that we keep borrowing, but we do not see any results from our borrowing, and that is why I keep on saying that as a citizen of Nigeria and as government, the government do owe us a transparency and honesty to what these particular loans are being used for. And you said it quite well, sir, that debt is supposed to enrich you because as a person who even owns a business, you need loan to actually do your business. It is that profit that makes you a better borrower. So now what are the implications of rising interest rates globally on Nigeria's external debt obligations? Because that is what we are looking at currently.
Well, look, there's always the cost of money. Money is not air. Air is something that is free to all of us. Your own might be fresh. The other one is not, but air is very free. Water is not free. Land is not free. So, but when it comes to money, the most important factor in dealing with money is cost of money, especially when you let in that money pass. That way, if you going into investment or if you going in as a loan. So I give you a typical example. The two ways, okay, for individuals we think of mortgage. For companies, we think of corporate bonds. For governments, we think of bonds again, because typically you don't put a lien on government property. So that's why you go in and you borrow at terms and conditions that is good. But as it's still coming down to what is the underlying cost of money to you. For example, if a market woman in Nigeria or you as an individual say, hey, I need 1 million naira to go start a small business. In America, 85% of our businesses are small businesses. Companies that employ 1 to 4 people. So let's say you go in and you borrow 1 million naira. 1 million, let's not even attach pound or sterling or dollar or euro to it. Just 1 million as a number of 7 figures. So if somebody is lending you money at 30%, so okay, madam, do good. I'm lending you 1 million naira. You pay me back in 1 year at 30%. So that means you are going to turn that 1 million naira to generate 30% interest only. Interest only is one time. And then, so at the end of 1 year, you're going to go back to the lender and give them 1.3 million. So as a business person, you're supposed to generate nothing less than 2 times the cost of money. So that business is supposed to produce you 600,000 naira. So that when you give your lender 300,000, you keep yourself, another 300,000 for profit and management and all of that. You see, that is too hard for anybody to survive at 30%. So what Nigerian government needs to do is to negotiate terms and conditions that lower the interest rate for them so that when they transfer that money borrowed to the people or to the consumers, they too get the benefit. But if they're borrowing at a high rate and passing it back to you, it's going to choke you. That's what we call the choking loan. That is, I'm actually trying to help you, but I don't want you to grow. I'm going to choke you. And that is what Nigeria has done. Whether they're borrowing from the World Bank or IMF or anybody, it's always choking Nigeria because the terms and conditions don't favor Nigeria. And so what you do is the people that are brokering the deal, the people that are bringing the money into Nigeria are just pocketing it and then letting the Nigerians suffer. It's not a complicated subject to understand. So it's the cost of money that needs to be addressed. The Nigerian National Assembly has never, for the 26 years since 1999, actually focused on that. I said, no, you have to bring down the interest rate to single digits, not high double digits. And then if you go to the amortizing schedule, that is, as you're paying down this loan with interest and principal, then it's reducing, it gives you a time. So for instance, remember I talked about interest only. But what is it with amortizing? For instance, again, I used my case of when I did my own mortgage. It was interest only, fixed rate for 30-something years. So it doesn't matter whether my income is up and down, I know what I owe the bank. Every month I have to write them a check. That's what's it called, amortizing. So for each of those payments I make, it's significantly reducing my principal as well as giving me the delta. The delta is the difference between where I bought the house and where I am in that period. So as you see, a significant what they call appreciation. But if I'm paying it, but my value, the collateral, the asset that is underlying in the loan or the security of the loan is going down, then I'm choking myself. I can either go negotiate with another lender or I walk away from it. If you go look at it, the books of many Nigerian banks, they have non-performing loans. And the reason the loans are not performing is because the conditions that is given to the borrower is not enabling them to grow. So it's like you guys are consumer television, go around and ask anybody. So that's why if the Nigerian business is going to family members begging, I beg, help me now, make me do this, make me do that. You don't have to. In fact, the banks are not going to be successful if they don't lend you money, but they have to lend you money at terms and conditions that are favorable, not when the CEO, most Nigerian CEOs are richer than the bank. You look at somebody like Tony Olumelu come out and say that they are billionaires and they flash into, but UBA is not even a $2 billion bank. How does that work? It's like you have CEO and chairman of JP Morgan Chase and come and say, I'm richer than JP Morgan Chase. Americans will have him in jail in a minute. He wouldn't even say it. But in the case of Nigeria, you have Fidelity Bank, Access Bank, and all these other banks telling you they are billionaires. But when you look at, the capital formation or the market cap for those banks is nothing. Go look at the stock exchange of the stock price of most Nigerian banks. UBA, which is one of the biggest banks in Nigeria as well as in most African countries, is selling at 5 cents a share. In America, that bank will not be listed on the stock exchange. It's a penny stock. But what do you see with Tony Olumelu going around, flying, showing him? He should be ashamed, and Nigerians should be questioning him. How are you going to be a billionaire bigger than where we are keeping our money? You know how banks work? Banks is a pool of money. So banks actually are not supposed to be making money if the people that are borrowing money from them are not making money. Because it's when they lend that money. It's when they lend that money that the bank grows. Banks are not like insurance company. When you miss your premium, you lose whatever you have contributed. But in the case of Nigerian banks, you go look at all of them. Access Bank, UBA, whatever, all these other banks, they go look at the stock price. Let's do another show next time and I can discuss this in depth. You look at it, no Nigerian bank has a share price of 10 cents a share. None. Yeah. And then you even look at the richest Nigerian man or richest black man, Dangote. No stock price associated with Dangote is worth $1 a share. $1 a share. And he's the richest man in the world. So where is his money? Is it in pillowcases in his house? Because it's supposed to be reflected with the stock price associated with this company. It's like, hey, I want to buy a stock price, a stock share in a company associated with Warren Buffett, one of the richest Americans. I'm going to be talking about $5,000 a year.
Yes, sir.
share, and they have to have it. But then you come to the case of, and they say the richest, this and that, everybody's clapping and jumping up and down, and it's not even worth $1 a share. In fact, in the entire black race, it's in the entire black race, they look at us and they laugh at us. We don't understand what money is. By now, most Nigerians will be chasing shares in Dangote Enterprises because they say it's the biggest or the richest now. But it's not worth anything. It's not listed on any credible stock market in the world. It's not even listed outside of Africa. So the ecosystem of financing and debt management has nothing to show for it except individuals who want to make you feel bad that they're driving around in a Toyota while you're walking around in a bicycle. That's what they want to do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Ejike, for that analysis. And you've highlighted some factors about the exchange rates as well as the shocking loans that we talk about. But in a few minutes, looking ahead, what practical strategies should policymakers prioritize to ensure debt contributes to inclusive and sustainable development?
Again, when you call it debt, it has to be on terms and conditions. That's it. Those are the most important factors. The terms and conditions. If you have bank A, bank B, bank C, are they competing for your business? The way they want to compete for your business or your country is to give you terms and conditions that are going to make you grow. Remember what I said at the beginning, debt's supposed to make you get wealthy. And that's why America is a wealthy nation, even though we are a deficit nation. Because you could see the nation improving and getting better because of that. We have credit cards. Our credit cards interest rate may be high, but I am not going to ever borrow money. Nobody in America will lend you money at 33%. In fact, you can sue them. In America, if somebody lends you money at an interest rate that makes you unsuccessful, you could sue them under what they call the usury law. USURY. Usury law. You look it up. You can't lend somebody money at terms and conditions that are going to choke them. So your interest rate has to be competitive and it has to be relevant to the person's ability to pay back. So again, the Nigerian National Assembly it's a tribal assembly. They don't do anything for the benefit of Nigerians. They just do it for the benefit of themselves. So they don't discuss those things. They don't question the president. They don't question the finance minister. They don't question the president. Where is this money coming from? What object? And that is why, if you remember, when Obasanjo came in 1999, I don't even know if you were born at the time because you look very young. Obasanjo people, when Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala became finance minister, went around begging for debt for forgiveness and cancellations, but you shouldn't even just ask for forgiveness. The people that lend you the money, and the people that lend you money, are colluding, participating in funneling money to people. Then they too, you can walk away and say, "I am not paying you." Nigeria can go to World Bank and say, "We're not paying you because you let us know conditions that are choking us." But who is the Nigerian president that has the balls? What we say in America, said he has the balls to even say it. They will not say it because they are not very confident leaders. When they're on the world stage, they don't feel confident to say, "We're not going to do this. We shouldn't be borrowing money when we are not growing because you are not enabling us. We're going to walk away." Brazil did it in the 90s, and the World Bank begged them, "Please don't say that. We don't want anybody to copy it as their model." No Nigerian president has ever said it from Obasanjo from 1999 to the guy you have now, Tinubu. Nobody, because they are not very confident people. They're not going to be able to fight on behalf of Nigeria. Obviously, they just fight for themselves or the cronies around them. Who is this guy that is the Minister of Finance? Edu? Is that Edu? Wale Edu or something?
Yes.
Yeah. When you see him talk, he talks like an Ajegule market man. He doesn't have the confidence of a financial guy, that is fighting for Nigeria. He's fighting for himself or his people. So Nigeria has to detach itself from their personal goals to look at the collective good of the Nigerians. For 200 and something million people. How come I was in Nigeria in October and I look at Lagos, everywhere I was, and I don't stay in any where hotel. I stay in like Marriott in Ikeja or signature place in what is it, Victoria Island and stuff. I can look around. Each time I come around, I'm going to jump over a gutter. And I go to see trash floating in the gutter. And then I see people with abada flashing all this stuff. And I say, oh my goodness, even in heaven, your so-called heaven is still living in the trash. Come on. You know what I mean? These things are evident. You don't have to really be very sophisticated in your thinking to see that Nigeria is a very 50-rate country. You don't have to be. I went, I'm from Enugu, that's where I was born. I went to University of Nigeria at Enugu campus, which is not too far from where my father's house, is. And I couldn't believe where the students are. And I went to Unilag. I'm just touring. Just to see, to compare and contrast. Igbo people talk, I have married, you can't say my wife is better than anybody if you have married only one person. You have to have married two wives to compare and contrast. So I have lived in Nigeria and I live in America. I'm able to compare and contrast. And I do this thing critically, objectively, to say, why is Nigeria where Nigeria is? So again, it goes down to depth. You see, you guys know, maybe it was the Governor General, Lord Lugard, who left Hong Kong and came to Lagos in 1912. You go to Hong Kong today and you look at Lagos. They are geographically located because they're by the water and the size of the places are slightly different. Well, look at Lagos. Look at how backward Lagos is. Well, I was in Hong Kong. It was in January last year. Yes, I was there. So I'm an economic analyst. The reason I analyze is by observation and data, because electricity came to Nigeria. Do you know electricity came to Nigeria before it went to China? Nigeria got a first power plant in 1896, 64 years before independence. China got electricity in 1912. So America had electricity 106 years after independence, because the first power plant in America was built in 1882. America became a nation in 1776. Do that math, it's 106 years after. But look at where America is today. So it's only 14 years that separates Nigeria and America from having power plants.
Yes,
only 14 years. And where is Nigeria today? People are buying generators. You know how many people die every year because of this fume from generators they are inhaling when they go to sleep? Has anybody even gathered that data? The data is there.
Yes,
and so these are the things. These are the things that the average Nigerian stop celebrating your governments and your representative. When you see them, you dance. When they build a little road in front of your house, oh, thank you, God. You start kneeling down and say, come on. They're doing things that they're supposed to do. They are not spending their money. They are using your money. They're using their money.
The citizens of Nigeria.
Yeah, they're using your money to make you look like you're a beggar. Nigerians are. I don't care how educated the Nigerians are. They have PhD, this and this, they put before and after their name. You look at their individual behaviors. A lot of them not even ask their own father or mama, what are you doing for money? If the man comes home one day and bring a bunch of money, the next thing they carry their pastor, make we go do salaka, make we go do Thanksgiving, God don't bless us. The man must have stolen the money.
Absolutely.
The man must have stolen the money.
Thank you so much.
Nobody's asking the questions until you start to be very critical from your own parents. The reason I behave the way I do is because my father was the chief in Eastern Nigeria. I wasn't in Nigeria and I ran away from Nigeria to America. I did my youth service. I went to school. I went to boarding school and all of those stuff. But I was able to talk to my dad. I said, Papa, why are we doing it this way? At one time, I had to jump my father physically. I said, Papa, no, we're not going to do it that way. And I'm his oldest, the first son, and he respected me. And so when I came to America and I called my father because, all this chief, Igwe, I'm about the colors. I said, Papa, what were you guys doing as chief? Enugu that I thought used to be the best city in my life. I said, Enugu is the trash. There's
That
nothing
is a
in
very,
it.
very,
And you know what my father told me? You know what my father told me when I said that? He said, you're going to do well in America. If you are able to ask your father the question you have asked him. And that is what it is. When I ran for mayor of Dallas, yes, I didn't win. Or when I ran for Congress, I asked questions. I have met American presidents. I've hosted some of them, some governors of Texas in my home. And I asked questions. Why are we not doing this?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
But in Nigeria, when you see a governor, when you see a governor, you roll down, you bow and you throw yourself on the ground. I say, if you're doing that for a human being, when you see Jesus, what would you do? Dig a hole in the ground? Why are you worshiping human beings the way you Nigerians do? Ask them questions. They are not there with their private money. They are there with the public money on your behalf. And if they're
And that is why we need transparency, sir. We do need transparency from them. That is exactly why we are asking these questions, and that is why you're here this morning. And all the insights you've given us is something that Nigerians need to actually listen to and start questioning. And they say charity begins at home. That is our proverb in Nigeria. So from your home, please, start asking questions, because most of the time also it's not even only government. Also, the citizens of Nigeria have
he asks questions.
Yeah,
he asks questions as well.
Issues. So thank you so much, Mr. Ejike-Okpa. It's always very, very nice having you in the studio. I enjoy all our conversations. And thank you so much for shedding a remarkable light on this conversation. And just like you said the other time, the conversation you were talking about, we're going to bring you back so that we can talk in detail about that particular conversation. But this morning we have to let you go because we're running out of time in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us for the conversation.
Thank you for that. But let me give you one final thing on leadership. Leadership is the ability to lead with or without authority. When you lead with authority, it's your governor. But when you lead without authority, it's influence. So the influence, Nigerians are supposed to influence their authority to do something that is good for them. If they're worshiping authorities, then they get abused. So always remember, leadership doesn't have to come from the top. It has to come from the bottom. The Nigerians have to demand from their Igwe, the Oba, the Amainabo, the chief, whomever that is authority to them, and say, do it this way for us, or we're not going to obey you.
Accountability begins from there. Absolutely.
Yeah, accountability begins from them. Thank you so much for that ending note, and we'll be delightful to have you back on Perspective. But right now, we'll have to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me, and have a good day.
Sir. Have a good day too.
You too, sir.
And it's actually very, very important to have conversations like this, and that was Mr. Ejike-Okpa, a global analyst on the program this morning. He's always having a very beautiful insight when it comes to conversations like this, and that is why I enjoy having conversations with him. But today, right now, we have come to the end of the program, Perspective, this morning on Consumer Hala TV. If this is the first time you are seeing us, please do not leave without leaving a subscribe, comment, and also like on this particular post, and let us know what you've learned from this conversation this morning. Follow us across all our social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, X, YouTube, Consumer Hala, TikTok account at Consumer Hala TV. I am Ejike-Okpa Ajibola, and I have with me this morning in the studio Ejike-Okpa. Thank you so much, Ejike.
Yeah, absolutely nice to do this morning.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we'll be seeing you guys next week, Monday, for a fresh conversation on Perspective and Consumer Hala TV. Goodbye.